Hey, it's Jamie East here from the Smart 7, and today's episode is brought to you by Pension Bee and their award-winning Pension Confident podcast. Getting your head around pensions might seem overwhelming, but that's where Pension Bee comes in. They're on a mission to build pension confidence. So whether you're just starting on your pension journey, you're nearing retirement, or like me, you're somewhere a little bit in between, then you should have a listen to the Pension Confident podcast. It's an award-winning podcast that digs into topics that really matter with the help of financial experts. So that could be the basics of how pensions, ISAs or mortgages work, and things like how to get started on saving for a happy retirement. And a bit like the Smart 7 does with the news, they break down complex pensions finance into language that we can all understand. You can listen or download the Pension Confident podcast wherever you get your podcast from, or you can watch the episodes on YouTube. And remember, anything discussed on the podcast shouldn't be regarded as financial or legal advice, and when investing, your capital is at risk.
It's Saturday the 13th of September. I'm Trish Laverty, and this was a week that saw the race for Labour's deputy leader get underway. Israel's strike at Hamas in Qatar, Russia launched drones into Poland's airspace, and the death of right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk.
Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
But not the news.
After last week's dramatic resignation by Deputy Prime Minister and Housing Secretary Angela Rayner, the PM spent the weekend doing a pretty comprehensive reshuffle of his government. The big change was David Lammy's promotion to Deputy Prime Minister, while Yvette Cooper moved from Home Secretary to Foreign Secretary and Shabana Mahmood moved from Justice to Home Secretary. There was also a series of junior minister changes. Darren Jones, the new Cabinet Minister, says the reshuffle puts a strong team in place.
This second chapter, this second year of the Labour government, is now about optimising delivery against the promises of change that we made to the public. And that started on Monday when the Prime Minister announced a strengthening of the 10 Downing Street operation, including my appointment as his Chief Secretary in Number 10. And he had been already considering a broader reshuffle, albeit on a slightly slower timeframe.
The new ministers got straight to work, with Yvette Cooper making contact with Ukraine's Foreign Minister and new Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood set to chair a meeting of the Five Eyes Security Alliance to discuss tackling people smuggling. Dame Emily Thornberry is one of those considering running for the deputy leader position, and she said it's important that Labour represents a wide range of views.
And I think that sometimes people in Number 10, and it always happens, whoever the leadership is, when whichever political party, can end up finding themselves increasingly isolated. And if you make decisions in a small group, you don't make such good decisions.
Monday saw Labour announce the timeline for the election of the party's new deputy leader, but candidates only had until Thursday afternoon to gather support from at least 80 Labour MPs to qualify for the second stage of the process. A number of high-profile candidates withdrew from the race on Monday, including Jess Phillips, Liz Nandy and the new Justice Secretary Shabana Mahmood. Mahmood says she's focused on her new job and the ongoing struggle with migration.
I have one top priority, and that is to secure our borders. There is interesting space for collaboration. We've been talking about how we can take much more coordinated action, including the cutting of visas. This is a Labour government with Labour policy and Labour proposals.
Meanwhile, former Cabinet Secretary Lord O'Donnell told the BBC that the priority needs to be the big picture and generating growth in the economy.
We need to have Number 10 and Number 11 working together, which results in policies which make economic sense and which are politically doable. We need to have an agenda which has growth that makes people's lives better in ways they realise.
The government published its new NHS Trust League tables for the first time on Tuesday, with specialist hospitals taking the top spots. The worst performing is the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Kings Lynn, not surprisingly, as large portions of the hospital are propped up because of structural weaknesses that are still to be repaired. Health Secretary Wes Streeting defended the tables, claiming it helps to inform the public and let them make informed choices about their care. He was also keen to rule himself out of the running for the job of Deputy Leader of the Labour Party.
No, I will not be a candidate for the Deputy Leadership. I've got more than enough on my hands with health and social care. But we have seen some brilliant candidates already declare their interest, and I'll be waiting to see who set out their stall.
Initially, 6 candidates came forward, all female, aiming to replace Angela Rayner. By Thursday, that had come down to 2 candidates, a straightforward race between former Commons leader Lucy Powell and the early favourite Education Nations Secretary Bridget Phillipson. She was busy speaking this week at the TUC conference and defending Labour's plans for workers' rights.
Make no mistake, let there be no doubt. 1 year ago, we were elected to deliver this employment rights bill, and Congress, that is what we will do. We will not accept any watering down by the Lords. Forward with the employment rights bill in full.
The UN Human Rights Council met in Geneva on Monday, where Volker Turk, the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, condemned Israel for their treatment of Palestinians. He stopped short of describing the situation as genocide, but warned that Israel will have a case to answer before the International Court of Justice.
Israel's mass killing of Palestinian civilians in Gaza, its infliction of indescribable suffering, its killing of journalists, UN staff and NGO workers, and its commission of war crime upon war crime are shocking the conscience of the world. I'm horrified by the open use of genocidal rhetoric and the disgraceful dehumanization of Palestinians.
In Jerusalem on Monday, 2 Palestinian gunmen opened fire on a crowd at a bus stop, killing 6 people and injuring 7 more. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu visited the scene and had strong words of warning for Palestinians living in Gaza City, warning them to leave now as Israeli ground forces prepared for the much discussed invasion. He said the mission is to wipe out Hamas.
We are at war against terrorism on several fronts. I would like to express my condolences to the families of those murdered. But the war goes on, both in the Gaza Strip, where we will destroy Hamas as we have promised.
Israel struck a dramatic and unexpected blow on Tuesday against Hamas leadership, who had gathered in Doha for talks on a ceasefire. Israeli jets launched a strike on the meeting in Qatar in a move that has shocked global leaders. The Israeli Prime Minister addressed the Israeli people after the attack.
At noon today, I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas. These are the same terrorists who planned and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th. They perpetrated the worst attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust.
While 6 people were killed, the strike was not successful in targeting the top leadership or the Hamas negotiating team. Qatari officials described the attack as a blatant violation of international law, and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer was among those condemning the attack. The US were notified in advance by Israel, but only informed Qatar as the strike was already underway. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said a strike in Qatar does not advance Israel or American goals, and President Trump says he wasn't thrilled. However, House Speaker Mike Johnson appeared to support the attack.
It's a very dangerous time there. They have enemies encamped around them, and they're trying to bring that to a peace as well. Anybody who looks at this reasonably, Hamas has to be eradicated. You've got to remove that threat on the immediate border, frankly, within the bounds of Israel.
There was no apology on Wednesday from Israel for its strike on Hamas leadership in Qatar, and Israeli forces continued their assault on Gaza City in earnest, with at least 41 people killed on Wednesday. It was a difficult moment for Keir Starmer to welcome the Israeli president to number 10 Downing Street, but Starmer was insistent in the comments that diplomatic channels need to be maintained.
I condemn the strikes that Israel carried out in Doha. They violate Qatar's sovereignty. I will also be clear that restrictions on aid must be lifted, the offensive in Gaza must stop, and settlement building must cease. The UK will not walk away from a diplomatic solution, because that is the only way to get the hostages out and to stop the killing.
The SNP's Stephen Flynn took a different view, and he, along with Labour backbenchers, had urged the Prime Minister not to meet with the leader of what they called a rogue state.
Gaza is a graveyard, but rather than end arms sales and stand by international law, the Prime Minister will welcome into his home the man who called for the collective punishment of the Palestinian people.
Israeli forces continued to press forward into Gaza City on Thursday, with reports of more than 50 people killed in strikes. The UN Security Council met on Thursday evening to discuss Israel's attack on Hamas leaders in Doha and issued a statement agreed by all 15 members condemning the strikes, but failed to mention Israel by name. According to reports, members called for de-escalation and expressed their solidarity with Qatar. Donald Trump and his administration weren't happy with the strikes on what America considers a major non-NATO ally, but Trump hasn't moved to rein in Israel in the wake of the incident. Qatar's Foreign Affairs spokesperson Dr. Majed Al-Ansari said America needs to act.
Prime Minister Netanyahu cannot be left loose on the region again like this. This is a red line that has been crossed right now. He has been talking about reshaping the region, but it is very clear right now that he wants to shape the region into his own image, which is chaos and destruction wherever he lands.
This week has seen Ukraine hit by the largest wave of Russian missiles and drones so far, with people killed and dozens injured in cities across the country. The Ukrainian military said an attack on Sunday saw over 800 drones deployed, along with 9 cruise missiles and 4 ballistic missiles. For the first time, a key government building was targeted, with the Ukrainian cabinet office in Kyiv hit, which started a fire on the upper floors. Following the attack, Donald Trump said he would move to the second level of sanctions against Russia, but what that entails was not clear. Ukrainian President Zelensky politely but firmly rejected Vladimir Putin's suggestion that the two men meet in Moscow.
I can't go to Moscow when my country is under missiles, under attacks each day. I can't go to this capital of these terrorists. It's understandable, and he understands it.
Early Wednesday morning, more than 20 Russian drones crossed over into Poland, triggering a rapid response from Poland, Italy and Dutch fighter planes, who targeted and shot down many of the drones. It's not clear if this is an escalation by Russia, but Polish President Donald Tusk said his country stands ready to defend its borders.
Poland's airspace was violated by a large number of Russian drones. In all likelihood, we are facing a large-scale provocation. We're determined to act as adequately as last night if similar incidents repeat in the upcoming hours and days.
Western leaders struggled to respond to Russia's apparent deliberate invasion of NATO's airspace. The incursion led to condemnation from EU President von der Leyen, along with European leaders, while Donald Trump tweeted, "Here we go," 12 hours later, but it's not clear what America's next step will be. Poland formally notified fellow NATO members that it was invoking Clause 4, which requires allies to be prepared to assist in the event of an escalation, and NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte had a clear message for the Russian leader.
Whether it was intentionally or not, it is absolutely reckless. To Putin, I mean, my message is clear. Stop the war in Ukraine. Stop the escalating war, which he is now basically mounting on innocent civilians. Stop violating allied airspace. And know that we stand ready and that we will defend every inch of NATO territory.
Friday saw an emergency session of the UN Security Council convened at Poland's request. Poland's Foreign Minister Radoslaw Sikorski said the Russian attack on Poland's airspace was deliberate and that it lasted more than 7 hours, with drone fragments discovered over 200 miles from the border. NATO has been more cautious about calling it deliberate, and Secretary-General Mark Rutte was trying to calm matters on Thursday.
A conflict like this can only be brought to an end when the American president is personally involved, and he is involved. He is working actively at this, and NATO, having now committed to the 5% spending, is a clear signal to Russia we are serious.
Ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go! Hey, hey!
That was the sound of protesters on the streets of Chicago last weekend, making their feelings very clear on Donald Trump's plan to send troops and his immigration forces into Chicago. Trump posted an Apocalypse Now style meme on Sunday, which seemed to threaten that the US government was going to war with the capital city of Illinois. It may be that he's just overexcited about the renaming of the Department of Defense, which is now formally known as the Department of War. But White House border Tsar Tom Homan said his troops are heading for Chicago to begin a wave of arrests and deportations.
Look, I think it's worth being taken out of context. If I say we're going to war, we're going to war with the criminal cartels. We're going to war with illegal aliens, public safety threats that rape children, that raped citizens, that committed armed robbery.
Donald Trump's ongoing attempts to shut down public interest in convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein hit another major obstacle on Tuesday. The Epstein estate released the birthday book put together by the financier's friends to celebrate his 50th birthday, which included the signed Donald Trump sketch and poem. Trump is suing the Wall Street Journal for reporting the story, claiming it was a hoax, but the sketch and caption were everywhere on Tuesday. There was also what appeared to be jokes about sex trafficking in the book, and the Trump defence, which was to say that's not my signature, failed to convince anyone who has seen the president sign an executive order. Congressman Robert Garcia is the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, and he says the truth is clear to everyone.
The reality is that they are bold-faced lying, and they know that they are lying for Donald Trump. The president is saying that this note was planted and the signature matches it exactly. Give me a break.
Charlie Kirk, one of Donald Trump's right-wing allies and the activist behind the student organisation Turning Point USA, was shot on Wednesday at a rally in Utah Valley University. The event was the first of what was called the comeback tour as Trump allies begin to ramp up for the midterm elections, and social video from the event shows Kirk throwing hats into the crowd just moments before he was shot. It appears he was hit in the neck and was rushed to hospital where he died shortly afterwards. President Trump ordered flags to be flown at half-mast until Sunday as a mark of respect, and he issued a video while clearly upset by the shooting in which he blamed the radical left for political violence and paid tribute to his friend Kirk.
Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come.
The death of Charlie Kirk, the far-right commentator and ally of Donald Trump, has shocked America. The FBI continues to investigate the killing, identifying a suspect and finding a bolt-action rifle, which suggests the killer shot Kirk from the roof of a nearby building. The killing has startled an American public used to gun violence, and several right-wing influencers have withdrawn from public events. President Donald Trump seemed to be particularly upset at the death of his ally, and he's decided to posthumously award Charlie Kirk with the highest civilian honour, a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Speaking at a 9/11 commemorative event, the president sounded positively gloomy.
If you attack the United States of America, we will hunt you down and we will crush you without mercy, and we will triumph without question.
The shooting has sparked calls from the right criticising what they called leftist violence and ramping up tensions, while ignoring the lack of response they had to violence against Democratic senators in Minnesota. Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer was calling for calm.
And coming together is what we ought to be doing, not pointing fingers of blame.
Still to come on the Standout 7, in association with Metro, a British Olympian switches teams and MTV celebrates the Video Music Awards.
Right after this.
Hey, it's Jamie East here from the Smart 7, and today's episode is brought to you by Pension Bee and their award-winning Pension Confident podcast. Getting your head around pensions might seem overwhelming, but that's where Pension Bee comes in. They're on a mission to build pension confidence. So whether you're just starting on your pension journey, you're nearing retirement, or like me, you're somewhere a little bit in between, then you should have a listen to the Pension Confident podcast. It's an award-winning podcast that digs into topics that really matter with the help of financial experts. So that could be the basics of how pensions, ISAs or mortgages work, and things like how to get started on saving for a happy retirement. And a bit like the Smart 7 does with the news, they break down complex pensions finance into language that we can all understand. You can listen or download the Pension Confident podcast wherever you get your podcast from, or you can watch the episodes on YouTube. And remember, anything discussed on the podcast shouldn't be regarded as financial or legal advice, and when investing, your capital is at risk.
Welcome back.
There were more revelations about Jeffrey Epstein on Wednesday, but this time not involving Donald Trump. Instead, it was another of Epstein's friends in the spotlight, the former Labour MP and the UK's ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson. Leaked emails revealed that he had been lobbying on Epstein's behalf and coaching him through a legal process which involved serious sexual offences. Mandelson attempted to do damage control, insisting he'd never seen any wrongdoing, but the revelations put Prime Minister Keir Starmer in an awkward position, something that Tory leader Kemi Badenoch seized on at Prime Minister's Question Time.
Lord Mandelson called Jeffrey Epstein his best pal. Was the Prime Minister aware of this intimate relationship when he appointed Lord Mandelson to be our ambassador in Washington?
Full due process was followed during this appointment, as it is with all ambassadors.
The saga of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump claimed another scalp on Thursday. Trump has been doing everything in his power to avoid having to release the famous Epstein client list, but this week has seen more revelations, including leaked emails to Epstein from former Tony Blair advisor Peter Mandelson. He started Thursday as the UK's ambassador to the US, but the pressure on Prime Minister Keir Starmer from the opposition and his own backbenchers was beginning to mount. New Home Office Minister for Migration and Citizenship Mike Tapp struggled to put the matter to bed when asked about the leaked emails by ITV News.
I found it disturbing, and I'm really uncomfortable with that. And I just have to then refer you to the statement from Peter Mandelson yesterday, where he does also, express that deep regret.
It turned out the Prime Minister also felt the pressure, and Mandelson was sacked, with Downing Street saying that Starmer found the emails reprehensible. Minister of State Steve Doughty had the job of informing the Commons.
In light of additional information in emails written by Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister has asked the Foreign Secretary to withdraw him as Ambassador to the United States. The emails show, Mr. Speaker, that the depth and extent of Lord Mandelson's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is materially different from that known at the time of his appointment.
There was a surprising announcement on Wednesday from a British Olympian. Ben Proud, who was a world and European champion swimmer, won a silver medal in the Paris Olympics for the 50-metre freestyle. But he's decided to step away from traditional sport and is intending to enter the enhanced games, where athletes are allowed to take supplements to artificially improve their performance. The games are due to take place in May 2026 and are the brainchild of Australian businessman Aaron D'Souza, who says they'll be the Olympics of the future. By joining the enhanced games, Ben is now banned from regular competitions.
Realistically, I've done everything I can. Now the enhanced are giving me a new opportunity. I definitely don't think they're undermining clean sport. I respect the traditional sport for everything it has done. And if I were to ever take something that is not allowed in swimming, I would never let myself step back into traditional sport.
The early hours of Monday morning saw this year's MTV VMAs, or Video Music Awards as we used to call them. The event took place in Long Island, which is somewhat unusual, and the big winners with 2 awards each were Ariana Grande, Sabrina Carpenter and Lady Gaga. The show also featured awards from some old-timers, with Ricky Martin picking up the Latin Icon Award, while Busta Rhymes won a Visionary Award and Mariah Carey won a Lifetime Achievement Video Vanguard Award. Gaga had to dash off before the end of the ceremony because she was performing at Madison Square Gardens, but she had words of inspiration before she hopped in the Uber.
Being an artist is a discipline for reaching into someone's heart and reminding them to dream, the responsibility to make the audience smile.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
AI is transforming customer service. It's real and it works. And with Finn, we've built the #1 AI agent for customer service. We're seeing lots of cases where it's solving up to 90% of real queries for real businesses. This includes the real-world complex stuff like issuing a refund or cancelling an order. And we also see it when Finn goes up against competitors. It's top of all the performance benchmarks, top of the G2 leaderboard, and if you're not happy, we'll refund you up to $1 million, which I think says it all. Check it out for yourself at fin.ai.